Yep, we're good. You can go ahead and, yep, once in a while. Okay, so click off of that one. There you go. And then the top one too. Oh, it must be on. There you go. Hi, everyone. So, oh, there you go. That's better. And we see that the audio is going. Welcome to the Happy Hippie Hebrew Girl Show. Yay. We are live broadcasting from a secret location. Right, Isaac? Yep. So welcome to the show this morning. I hope that you're having a marvelous Shabbat, that perhaps you are resting, like maybe with your slippers on, kicked up watching this on your screen with your family. So we are so honored that you're here, that you're going to spend some time with us this morning. I have Isaac in the house. He is going to come join me for the teaching part of this show. So if you're new to the show, it goes for about an hour and a half, give or take. Anybody that knows me knows that it could go longer. But anyway, and I have several things to walk you through, some fun things, and then we're going to get to the topic today, which is how are we saved? This is part 2. So if you didn't see part 1, we're going to kind of just quickly rehearse it. And when Isaac comes and joins me, we're going to rehearse it, and then we're going to go forward into the topic at hand. And so it could be a part 3. I don't know. There's a lot going on here and a lot we need to talk about. So I just want to, let me just make sure that, I want to see who is actually, how this is working. So this is a new location. Now you have your volume all the way up and you can barely hear me. Okay, let me see. Hold on. Let me see if you can hear me a little. We don't want to get static or kickback, so that's why I had it just a little bit low. So can you let me know, Gina, if you can hear it a little better now? We don't want the reverb. We don't want to cause static or anything. So let me see here. I will turn the music down. That probably will help. So is that any better? I'm going to kind of wait until, oh, that's much better. Oh, good, Ron. Okay, good. I am going to, oh, good, Gina. Nice. Thank you for telling me that. This is really cool. So if you saw last week's show, I'm going to explain kind of what happened this week. If you're not in the Ladies of Teshuvah group, then you might not know what happened this week as far as our location, using the location that we were using before, where I had a really nice screen here and I could show you the slides and everything. It's had to change for several reasons, so I will let you know of that story in a second. So let me get going here, get back to my screens here so that I can keep going with myself. So I've got my slides in front of me now instead of behind. You can't see them, unfortunately, but you're going to see a couple slides as Isaac's going to help me produce the show. So I have a video for you to watch. It's going to go full screen, excuse me, and some slides as we go through the prayer and whatnot. So Shabbat Shalom, Ladies of Teshuvah, and your families. So, and anyone else who is watching right now, just so you know, I have a Ladies of Teshuvah Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group that I think you will love. And if you join that, there's several benefits of joining. Let me see if I can, I just messed myself back up. I wish you could see the slides. The slides are pretty cool. But there's several benefits to joining the Ladies of Teshuvah group, and you'll find out some more later as to why. But you get a free PDF every week that I give out to ladies who and their families who have watched the show today. So after the show right here, which is going to go for about an hour and a half, then all the ladies, I want you to come over to the Facebook group, and we're going to meet over there for a little bit. And we are going to, I'm going to all you need to do is type your name, make a comment in the feed, and then I will know who was actually watching the show, and I'll send you a PDF tomorrow morning, provided I have your email address. And also, we during that time in the Facebook group, we are going to talk to Tammy and Sean Henkel. I'm super excited about that. So we're going to do a split screen, talk to some other believers about this walk and just about life. So it'll be fun. You can meet them. So just to place ourselves as to where we are right now, we are in the second month. So the new moon was this last week. So we're still counting the Omar from the time of first fruits. We start counting to Shavuot, and during that counting, it's called the counting of the Omar. So we are in the second Shabbat of that counting, and I don't know what you guys do, but we make something that is layered every 7 Shabbats. You know how you count after first fruits in order to find Shavuot, which is like Pentecost. It was when the covenant was made. It's when the Ruach was poured out after Yeshua left. In order to count properly, you have to do it 2 ways to find Shavuot. So it really is pretty cool that Yehovah gives us 2 ways to count to Shavuot, because it's kind of like a checks and balances kind of thing. So it's 2 witnesses to Shavuot. And if you can't do it both those ways, then you are not on the right Shavuot. But anyway, if you start counting from first fruits, and it says count 50 days, and count 7 Shabbats plus 1 day. So for the counting of the 50 days, I gave the ladies of Teshuvah, as we do in my family, a little calendar with something, a little sheaf, ancient Omar graphic cup that the kids cut out, and then they put over the calendar as it goes, so they can kind of keep the 50-day counting. But then for the 7 Shabbats, we do a layered cake. Every single Erev Shabbat as it comes in, that's our dessert, is a layered cake for each Shabbat. So you have that you're counting, so 7 Shabbats. So by the end, you have 7 layers cake. Well, this year we decided to do a layered popsicle. So I make these, like last night it was banana and vanilla yogurt, blended together, and that was the first layer. And then the second layer was a chocolate pudding. And so we're going to keep going from there and make a really nice. I'll have pictures to show you later as I get down through the counting of the Omar. But anyway, just wanted to let you know, again, we're in a undisclosed location. And we're in a new location because of what happened last week. So I was banned from the library last week. If you don't know that story, and if you're a woman or you have a wife that wants to join the ladies group, you can go into ladies group and you can see my video on it. But basically, the library wasn't accepting me there anymore. I don't fully know the full reasons because they wouldn't disclose it, but I believe that they just didn't like the subject matter that I was broadcasting, and so push come to shove, they decided that I was no longer welcome there. So that happened on Wednesday after my midweek show. Midweek talk with the ladies is not really a show, it's just getting together with the ladies and talking. So anyway, so I decided on Wednesday, after I went through that, to not panic, to actually not do what I normally do, which is I normally troubleshoot. You know what? Hold on just a sec. Isaac, could you put earbuds in and just make sure that sound is still good with your phone? You could pull it up and.
Yeah, I was just pulling the show up.
And it's in the yellow or the orange bag there. I think I have some. Otherwise, they're in my purse. Anyway, so just to quickly tell my story from this week, I decided to not troubleshoot and just trust that Yehovah was going to work something out. If he wanted us to do this show, continue to do the show, and if he wanted us to do it this weekend to finish this conversation about how we are saved. And in that resting, it was really awesome. Like, that's a new thing for me on some level. Not fully, but to make this conscious decision to say, I'm just going to back off and let Papa do something about this because I need you to rescue me, Papa, which I do that very frequently, but it was a conscious decision on Wednesday, and I ended up Thursday with this incredibly glorious day. It was so beautiful out, laid in the sun for the first time after all winter. Had just lots and lots of peace. And I continued to just work on my slides. I continued to work on the actual program for today, just assuming that he was going to find us a place. Well, it ends up that some ladies, Darlene and her sister, came through and said, we want to pay for your internet. Whatever you need, just let us know. So I was laying in the sun and just resting in Papa and chatting with him a bit, and all of a sudden this idea came, wait a minute, I think I can get Verizon Unlimited. So I called Verizon and they were like, yeah, there's a Verizon Unlimited, just kind of a brand new product that they have, and it wasn't too much more. It was a little bit more, but the ladies are going to cover it for me. So, and from this, I can broadcast anywhere from my phone and not use up all my data. So I can broadcast from the beach, the park, from here, from anywhere I want to broadcast from, except the mountains. So we did a lot of testing between Thursday and last night from the cabin. And what I figured out, ladies, is that I can broadcast from my cabin that's way in the woods. I can broadcast from there to the Facebook group. But what I figured out is Facebook has really, really low resolution when it comes to the video. So if you pull up the video in Facebook big, it's really bad resolution, and that's the beauty of it. Things can be uploaded really quick. So I can actually broadcast from the cabin for anything in the group. So I'll do my midweek from there, but I can't do it to YouTube. YouTube has standards as far as the quality of videos go, so it's only going to stream good quality, so I can't do that from out there. So that's why we're here. Anyway, so that's the good news and the bad news. So for now, until Papa changes that, that's how it's going to be. So we will just go from there and let him figure it out. I'm glad to be here today, and it looks like a really good stream, and Isaac was here to help me figure it out and make it work. One thought I had on what happened this week was that when I was president of the Hebrew Roots Club down in Boise State University, one of the things Isaac reminded me of was that as the president, you had, and as an entity, because when you created a club, you actually became an entity that had rights and this sort of thing. So you actually could apply for federal federal grants, to do things for your group. So as the president of the club, I applied for grants to be able to host the feasts on campus. So for the year that I was there, it was 2014 when I was there, for the whole year, I got $4,000 from the government in grant money to celebrate the feasts at BSU on campus, or for the students there. So we did. We had new moons. We had every Shabbat. We did a dinner, and we did all the high feast days on the top of the parking garage and on the fairway, where 22,000 students would walk by and stuff. So Isaac reminded me that we used the library for basically about 18 different broadcasts that we did from there for the show and for the midweek, and we got through the spring feast. So we were actually on the dime of the government again. So he wanted to remind me of that. I thought that was cool. So I just wanted to challenge you. Something that I learned this week is, again, I was not just learned, but just reminded of to remember what battle you're fighting. That you choose your battles wisely. So I know that there was a lot of people that were encouraging me to fight this battle, go take on the government and say, I have every right to be there at the library, and you can't squelch my First Amendment rights and stuff. And granted, it's very true, except that would take a lot of my energy. I've fought different battles like that before, and it takes a ton of energy, and it takes a ton of your time. And I think sometimes it's really important if the outcome is going to be the right outcome, but other times I think that it's going to distract you from your calling. And so I just let it go, and I told the ladies I'm just going to go find another location, and I let it go very gracefully and said goodbye. And here we are at a new location. So we'll see how long this lasts, but that's my encouragement to you, is to be careful of what battle that you choose to spend your energy fighting, and make sure that it is something that is really, really, really important. And there really is only one thing that's really, really important, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I just want to let those newcomers know. I wish I had a big thing up here to show you. I have really nice graphics. But anyway, welcome to a show, the Happy Hippie Hebrew Girls show that is dedicated to transforming your head knowledge into heart knowledge. Yeah, I think we spend time, way too much time in our head. I'm going to put this on a little chilly, actually, for a few minutes. We spend way too much time in our head, way too much time in books, even in the scriptures, I think. You know, scriptures are fabulous, and you need them absolutely to guide you, but then you've got to do what the scriptures are actually telling you to do. So I'm into transforming your head knowledge into heart knowledge. All right, I'm also aspiring to be a breath of fresh air. I think that there's a lot of teachers out there that are kind of scary, you know, big old beards and kind of mean, kind of yelling at you. They either yell at you or they look down at you, look down their nose at you. And I just feel that there is room in scattered Israel and this movement out of the nations for my voice and my feminine voice, and room for need for the feminine voice to be heard, and in a way that is feminine. Yeah, and not maybe perhaps feminine trying to be masculine or something like that. So anyway, and it's a show to lighten you up and so you can enjoy your Elohim and enjoy each other, as well as a show seeking to give you permission to be the beautiful Ezer Kenegdo you are. And I'm talking to the ladies right now. You are an Ezer Kenegdo, and that is what my ministry is all about, is unpacking what an Ezer Kenegdo is and what an Ezer Kenegdo was made to do, and then helping you do that. That's my goal, my mission. So your hosts today, I'm Rebekah Kahar Bat Yehovah and Isaac Ben Bar Yehovah, or Rebekah Garvin, Isaac Garvin. We've been married for almost 20 years. We've left man-made religion about 15 years ago. We've been parents for about 18 years. I've been a Melchizedek Feast Diva for about 10 years. And we have been running Teshuvah Ministries going on 6 years now. And we have, together with our family, hosted a little bit over 200 biblical feasts. So I feel we have something to say, something to share, because we do have some knowledge of this beautiful rhythm of Yehovah. Okay, Isaac, we're going to invite the Ruach HaKodesh. We're going to say together the Lord's Prayer. It's the prayer that Yeshua taught us to pray, but we're going to learn it in Hebrew. So I am no expert in Hebrew, okay? I went to Boise State to get my bachelor's with the goal of going over to Israel to actually get my master's in Hebrew, but I am nowhere near that right yet. So I'm dabbling in Hebrew, and let me tell you, it's dabbling. So anyway, but I love this. We can say this because we got good teachers, and Nehemiah Gordon and Keith Johnson are great at teaching us. So we're going to go ahead and invite the Ruach and say that it's called the Avinu prayer. And go ahead and hit that slide, I think. There you go. Okay, so this is our Father in heaven. May your name be sanctified. So this is how the actual Hebrew prayer goes that Yeshua taught us to pray. And we say, Avinu, Shabasha, Ma'im, Yit Kadesh Shimcha. Avinu, Shabasha, Ma'im, Yit Kadesh Shimcha. So go ahead and okay, so this one is, and then the next line is, may your kingdom be blessed, your will shall be done in heaven and on earth. So we say, Ve'it barak melchutcha, ratzincha, yihe ya'asui, basha ma'im uva aretz. And then we say it one more time. Ve'it barak melchutcha, ratzincha, yihe ya'asui, Basha Ma'im Uva Aretz. There you go. All right, and then give us our bread continually. V'titein lachmenu timidit. V'titein lachmenu timidit. And then forgive us our debts. Is that one not on there? You go down and it's okay, Isaac. Sorry. All right, I'm sorry, guys. That is the prayer. So it ends right there. Protect us from all evil, peril, vishom, renew, make ra. That is actually the end of the prayer. So it doesn't say, the doxology part on the end, it doesn't actually say, that's not what Yeshua said in Hebrew, because they found Matthew in Hebrew, did they not? Yay! Shem Tov Hebrew, so they know what he actually said in Matthew. Is documented what he said in Hebrew, so that's awesome. Sorry, Isaac, it's okay. Oh, I know, it's hard. So part of the prayer is to sanctify the name. So sanctifying the name is an action, it's a verb, it's something that you do. So there is somebody who said that the sound was pretty low, so I just want to make sure that the sound is well. If it's not, then message me. It's good. Okay, we're great. Okay, sanctifying the name. So I have 3 things that I want to do today to sanctify the name, and you yourself need to sanctify the name. So what does that mean? Sanctify the name means to say it. So first we got to know what name it is, because you got to call on the name of Yehovah to be saved. The name to be saved. So you got to know the name. So call on the name of the Lord and thou shalt be saved. What's the name of the Lord? So it's pretty awesome. Nehemiah Gordon has done a ton of research and found the pronunciation of the name in, what did we see last night? 1,600 manuscripts. I think he is now up to at least over 1,000, I know, of manuscripts that he has found where the name has the vowel points in it. The scribes left the vowel points in it. So we must know the name of our Elohim, and you must say it. That's part of the command in the covenant. So in the 10 Commandments, you have part of it saying, do not make the name of Yehovah invalid. That's what it's saying. It's not saying do not take the name of God in vain, as in don't say the word God or anything. God means nothing. It's just it's a title. And so what he's saying in the Hebrew of that, it says do not take the name of Yehovah and make it invalid by not using it. So we need to use it. That's part of sanctifying it. So sanctifying it means you use it, you praise his name, you give him praise. And then that's what I want to do right now. So for 3 things, I want to praise his name for helping me to get unlimited data for the show so I can broadcast from anywhere. That's what I want to praise Yehovah's name for right now. And I also want to praise him for 2 more things. One thing is we had the new moon this week, right? So it was the second new moon, second month, and we look up into the sky and we see when that sliver of the new moon is, and we know that begins the new month. So we always as a family do a little new moon special thing together, whether it's a picnic or a food hop or something like that. We do it together. Well, this is the first time in a very, very long time where Isaac and I we were somewhere else. We weren't together on the new moon. So the girls and I went and we had something together and we got to see the new moon. That's not me, right? Okay, we got to see the new moon. But Isaac, how cool is this? He's trucking and the truck actually stops really early in the afternoon, like what, 4? The truck stops at 4 in a location where we have friends and relatives actually. And they weren't going to move. The truck was not going to move until the next morning. And that was the new moon. That was the new moon night. And if it was seen, that would be the new moon night. And so he was stuck. So I called my relatives and said, hey, he's so-and-so place, go get him and bring him over to your house and feed him. Put him in a dark room, make him go, because he needs a tank once in a while. And I knew he did at that point after driving so long. So my cousin went and got him and showed up, grabbed him, put him in the car and took her to their house and put him in a dark room. So we got to lay down for a long time. We kind of got a little nap and then they fed him pizza. It was super awesome. So, I mean, they don't celebrate the feast or anything like that, but here he's on the road. Papa stops the truck, gives him fellowship for that evening to be able to just have a different day and have a little tiny celebration that just marked it. And so I want to give Yehovah praise for that because he did that. He arranged that. No one else did. The company didn't by any means. And Isaac can't stop the truck, so Papa stopped the truck. Yay! Can I hear a round of applause? Yay! Thank you. I need an audience. Here. I feel like I'm flushed. Am I flushed?
No.
Whew.
Great.
Okay. All right.
Rosy cheek
now,
vibrant.
yeah, rosy cheek vibrant. Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you. Actually, this is what I'm going to give to all the ladies of Teshuvah who meet me afterwards in the group. Again, and I know I gave this out last week, but just in case you didn't get it I'm doing this one twice in a row. If you watched this video a long time later than April 21, 2018, sorry, you're not going to get this. I'm sorry. But you can go to my store and buy it. Guess what? It's worth $25 on the store, but it's free today for the ladies. But anyway, what I want to tell you is this is 18 by 24. We're going to go over this later. 18 by 24 printed in color. I just found out this week that the place where I normally get these printed at Staples, and I get them printed for fairly cheap, all of a sudden have decided that they don't want to print my stuff anymore. Okay, they won't print my stuff anymore on their machines because my stuff is too covered with ink, and their new printer, I guess it damages something. So I have lots of these sorts of things that I've printed there for 15 years or more, and now they won't print for me this week. That was on the heels of losing the library. And I just know that Hasatan, I just want to say, in the name of Yeshua, go away, Hasatan. Just get away. Just, you meddling, yeah, I have explosives. Anyway, but okay, here's the thing. This is pretty expensive to print, I know. But I asked for the old print, the way that I normally do it. I wanted five of those posters to be printed for the, and I knew I was going to pay about $20 for the 5 of them. This one, just one, cost $20 to print. A little bit over $20 to print one. So I went and I finally gave up, and I said, okay, I just need one for the show, so I'm going to go ahead and pay it. And so I went and gave them my file. They gave me the spiel again. They weren't happy with me because I wasn't happy with them and the new policy. So Isaac went and stopped by yesterday on his way home before Shabbat to pick up my poster. And I was only supposed to have one. Guess how many I got? I got 5 posters for the same price. I don't know what happened. I paid for it before, and then I do know what happened. Papa gave me 5 posters. Yeah. So here we go. I'm praising the name of Yehovah to sanctify the name, to tell him thank you, thank you, thank you. May your name be sanctified on earth as it is in heaven. Now I'm going to do some sanctifying. I'm going to do some praising your name and say what an incredibly wonderful Elohim you are. You read our needs before we even know them. You have plans that we have no idea of, and we just need to be patient and wait on you to come through. That was pretty cool. So I'd like to hear a big round of applause. Yay! Okay. I wish you could see my graphics. They're pretty cool. Okay. As we continue to go, I have a few announcements for the ladies. So just a few quick announcements. One, meet me after in the ladies group. Number 2, I want you, Isaac, I'm going to have you put up the slide. Maybe I'll put up the slide. Here, I will put up the slide. Right there. Okay, you can put up the next one, Isaac. Okay, so this is my first slide. I want you to take action right now. I want you to go down below on the YouTube channel. I want you to click on subscribe. Now I know some of you are already subscribed, obviously, but for those of you who are not subscribed, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, because there's stuff here that goes up that I don't even send emails out about or anything. Also, I want you to go to teshuvaministries.com, sign up for our e-newsletter. And that one, as soon as you go there, basically a pop-up box will come up and you can go and sign into there. And I send stuff out all the time there that you only see through the email. And also, I want you, if you're a lady and you are not part of the Ladies of Teshuvah Facebook group, you want you to go to Facebook and type in Ladies of Teshuvah. You will see us and join and tell me why you want to join, and you'll get a free gift each week, a free PDF gift each week. And every once in a while I send out actual snail mail gifts. So anyway, so let's go to the next slide. Actually, I'm going to have you play. Let's do this, yes. I also want to invite you to support our ministry right here. You can become a patron of what I do to help free women from religious bondage, man-made religion, and put them on the ancient path, or at least encourage them that way and work with the Ruach to make it so, and then to support them as they do that. And you can make a one-time donation to a Kingdom Family at AOL.com if you want to as well. But here's what I want you to do, Isaac. While they do this, I have, no, go ahead, just get off that, just click right there on that one to take it away. Now take the subscribe one away. Click on the subscribe one. There you go. Okay, so Isaac, I want you to go scroll over to the other side, and there's a promo video I'm hoping is there. No, there's not, so I'm going to grab it. Hold on, guys. I got a video for you to watch. It's my, whoops, sorry, but I'm going to have to reach over, say video file. There we go. Whoops, did I get it? Done. So close to the battery right there. All right. Yeah? Okay. So that is what I am about. It's one of the things that I'm about, the major thing that I'm about. And I need your support to continue to do what I am doing, and so I can grow and continue to grow. So if you would join me for that, that'd be awesome. Also, the convention is coming up, so we need you to register for the national convention. Now I'm just confused. Just a second. Was that the promo video for the convention or the promo video for Patron?
Colorado.
That's for the Colorado convention?
It's not Colorado either.
Okay. All right. So that was the trailer for the Colorado convention. I've got another trailer that's very similar that I'll play in a little bit. But that is about my ministry and what I do and needing your support. So the deadline for the Colorado convention is May 25, ladies. Okay, so I need you to register. Who's going to be next to register? So it's going to be a fabulous weekend. You're going to have a time of your life. You're going to have so much fellowship. And stop belly aching about not having fellowship, because I'm providing something for you to have fellowship, and you need to come. You need to make it happen. And you know what? You'll make time for anything you want, and you'll make money. You'll set aside money for anything you want. So if you want fellowship, stop belly aching about it and join me in Colorado on July 20th through 22nd for an amazing retreat, amazing conference that is going to change your life, and you will not go away disappointed. Trust me, you are going to love this convention. All right, and I'm trying to make it an annual convention. That's what I want. So we need to get off the ground. So this is the first year. So join me. It's very, very inexpensive to come. I know travel won't be, but Papa will provide, right? Right. Okay. If you could see my slides, you would see that I have a slide that says Rebekah's Show and Tell. So this is a variety show. I have lots of different things that I want to go over during the variety show, and to keep you somewhat entertained but also informed, so it's meaningful and fun. One of the things that I want to show you is a poster. There we go. That I made. I don't know if you can see that. For public school. When Maggie was in 7th grade, walked into the schoolroom of her social studies teacher. And her social studies teacher and I were talking, and I said something about being a Hebrew. And he looked at me, and he's like, "What? Did you call yourself?" And I said, "I'm a Hebrew." And he says, I thought that was ancient and they're dead. And I was like, "No, I'm alive and well." And so he said, "What are you talking about?" And so he asked me, I was trying to explain to him, and so he asked me to put together a poster that would help explain what I was talking about. And in this public school, it was a little country public school, and we were at the teepee at the time. I spent several days putting together this little poster to try to help. I didn't really have a computer at the time. I didn't have internet, and I didn't have electricity. So I decided to do something that could be put on his wall. And it ended up staying on his wall for more weeks than he intended to study Israel. So he actually, social studies, they were actually studying the different religions. And they were studying Israel at one point, and this is when this came into play. And he studied Israel for, I think it was 3 weeks longer than he intended to, because of his interaction with us and of this poster. So I was trying to describe to him the difference between the northern kingdom, Ephraim, and the southern kingdom, who are known as the Jews. So I put together this little thing. The Hebrews is both of them. It's including the 10 tribes of Ephraim and the 2 tribes of Judah the 2 tribes that make up the house of Judah, which is they're known now as the Jews. So I have their Hebrews, and it means that they're descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or people who have been grafted into that, and people who have crossed over from the paganism of man-made religion towards the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then I have like this little pocket here that has shared beliefs. So we do share some beliefs. We celebrate the feast. There's quite a few things that we do share, but there are also some differences, and they're pretty important differences. And so like the northern kingdom, we have this history of it, like when they were dispersed and stuff, and Judah, some history here. But each one of these tabs has something on it that I typed up and printed when I was in town to talk about, the differences, or what makes it, what they believe about certain things. So anyway, it's pretty cool. Yeah, this would be Judah. The Jews are believing in the old covenant and circumcision, and they ignores the prophecies in the Modim that have to do with Yeshua. They believe the 2 houses have already been reunited, this sort of thing. They keep the rabbinical, Levitical law. But the northern kingdom, some of the defining characteristics of them, and or what should be the defining characteristics of the northern kingdom, actually. But we believe that there are 2 right now, as in they're separate, but they're going to come together. They're going to be one house. So we're not 2 house theorists completely. We believe they're 2 houses right now, but they're going to come together. What does Yeshua say? Or Yahweh say? He's going to take both sticks, Ephraim and Judah, and put them together and do his work, right? He's going to put, Isaac, Ephraim in the bow of Judah to do his work, that sort of thing. So that's my little show and tell today. And I tried very desperately to get Hadassah to come so she could help show and tell this, but she wanted to stay home with Maggie. So I have another little short video for you. It is the Royal Teens segment right now. And this is just a little segment for the kiddos. So our girls are 15 and 18. They have been walking this walk since they were, I think, 3 and 5, basically, of leaving man-made religion, and then what does that look like, and trying to find the ancient path and understand truly what the scriptures is saying. So they have been following us, along with us, for a long time. And so they've come across some pretty heavy-duty things that they've had to deal with, with public school. Private school, too, has been tough, and work, and things like that. So I have a fun little quick video for you that is about the girls and just a little part of their life. So go ahead and click on, right there.
normally like really small, pretty little.
Right there. Yes, royal teens can do very, very hard things. And that was last year and this year's footage, as you saw there. So I just want to encourage, and if Hadass and Maggie were here right now, I told them that they were going to do some encouraging of the teens. But I just want to encourage you teenagers that yes, this is tough, and yes, you may have to cross huge rivers and do things kind of hard because you're scattered right now. You're being set apart, and He's teaching you His ways, and so He's going to ask you to do some hard things, but you can do it. It's not hard when you know that He sees you and that He loves you and that He is going to come through for you, and He's going to remember all the hard things that you've done. He's going to remember when you crossed those rivers every day that raged right in front of you, and do it with joy. Do it with knowing that Papa sees you and that He's pleased with you. So that's my little encouragement for you. I could go off on that for a long time, I think, because there's so many things you could talk about with that. That's pretty profound there. But anyway, that's our life right now. So it's not as bad as last year by any means, but yeah. All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing comments. I think comments are going to be really fun to see after this, because it's pretty tough, like being in here. I don't know how anybody's viewing or I can't see anything. In the Facebook group, I can see who's on and I can see the comments, but now I can't see anything. So I'm just going to continue to go forward. And of course, I've been playing with something the whole time, and I meant to talk about it at the very, very beginning. I normally have a graphic here, and I have the dates. So the Gregorian date is, I'm going to go over it anyway. It's April 21st, 2018. The biblical date is the second month. We're in the fourth day of the second month. So we had the new moon this week. We start counting. And why are we counting? Why do we keep the new moons? We keep the new moons so that we find the most important new moon, which is the seventh new moon, which is the seventh month, which starts on that day is Yom Teruah, the day and hour that no man knows, that Yeshua knew when he was little. That's what he knew that feast as, the day and the hour no man knows. So we know when that Yom Teruah falls on the seventh new moon, so that's why we count to find that new moon is the most important. And of course, Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, the first new moon is important too. All the biblical all the spring feasts fall in the first month, and all the fall feasts fall in the seventh month. Very important to find those two. And so we practice by looking at the moon, right? And on Yom Teruah someday, we're not going to be looking for the moon, we're going to be looking for Yeshua. And just so you know, if you want to take issue with that, just look in your scriptures, and it says that we will be celebrating new moons and Shabbats. Shabbats, plural. There's all kinds of references to Shabbats, not just the weekly Shabbat, but the annual Shabbats. We will be celebrating those in the millennium, so we might as well start practicing now. All right. So Shavuot countdown is 37 days, and what I wanted to show you was Michael Rood's biblical calendar. It's the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. This is awesome. It's a good resource for you because it's going to help you stay on track. See, nice. It's got both Gregorian and Hebrew dates in there. And you can also get notifications from Deborah's date tree in Israel as to they keep track of when the barley is of Eve and the new moon is when the new moon is sighted over there. Even though here we teach our girls to look up and we observe from here unless we can observe as the sky's covered. So then we go with Israel's. Anyway, point being. And my second calendar is my calendar that you need. This one is one that you fill out. It is something you can use any year because it's yearless idea, but it is how this year is going to fall. You're going to fill it in. You know how this month's feasts are going to fall. This is the 7th month in this year, in this calendar, and you're going to fill that in according to when that year's feasts are. So you need this calendar like big time. This is like got a ton in it. So that you can also find on my store, and there is just tons there to go through. So that was sitting here, and I forgot to go over it. All right. So Isaac, I have one slide I'm going to have you put up. It is the Titanic. And then you are on with me, and we're going to start, yep, right there. All right, so we are going to talk about how we are saved, part 2. And I am going to welcome Isaac to come join me. You can go ahead and click off of there. There you go, and yep. Yay. And then we'll put this on you. I love his, go ahead and put that on right there. I love his glasses. The lights are too bright. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
So, again, I wish that I had the slides up here for you to see. But what I can do is give you a link to these slides. So it's Prezi. It's a Prezi presentation. It's kind of like an PowerPoint on steroids. So it's public. I will give you the link if you want it, and maybe I'll put it in the feed in the ladies group. So you can go here and you can click on all my slides and see all our scripture references and whatnot. I think I'm going to have you take those off. You look scary. Is that... I love those on you, but I like your blue eyes too. So I want to give a shout out to Grandpa. We know Grandpa Garvin is watching, and Grandpa, we just want to tell you that Maggie and Hadassah said to say hi and to give you a hug. And Grandma Garvin. Hi, Grandma, because you're probably watching with Grandpa. Mm-hmm. So, and probably, what, do they have a dog? Buddy?
Yes.
Buddy?
Buddy.
Buddy. Hi, Buddy. Yeah, is there a cat?
Probably. Not sure.
So we're very, very honored and very, very happy to have Grandpa and Grandma watching. And so we are going to do just a quick overview.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked last week.
Right.
About salvation.
Mm-hmm.
We covered a few things. We covered basically, we talked about the 2 ditches of Christianity and the Messianic Hebrew roots, Messianic Judaism, even though there's not really such a thing as far as I understand. Michael Reed goes off on that. There's no such thing as Messianic Judaism. Anyway, calling yourself that, whatever. That these are 2 ditches, and Christianity promotes the easy button, as in salvation by the easy way. Just pray the sinner's prayer, right? And they probably would not say that's completely true, but in all reality, that's kind of what it comes down to. Is I hear so many people sometimes say, I was saved on this date, and it has to do when I asked Jesus into my heart. Mm-hmm. So and like we were saying, that is a first step, and that is an amazing step, but it doesn't stop there. So that's not the full picture. There's something that needs to happen after that.
Yeah, our friend Seth says that it's like a 2-step process, being called and then being chosen.
Yeah.
Chosen to choose. And that initial coming or the into the faith or being saved. That's actually just the being called step.
Oh.
But then there's like an action that's
Right.
required after that,
It's called sanctification.
which is the choosing part.
Yeah.
and living out the
sanctification would be-
choice.
yeah. Which would be sanctification.
Yeah.
And that is huge. I remember not knowing what some of these words were. Righteousness, sanctification, justification, all these big words that were thrown at us.
Right.
And who knew what they were, really?
Right.
So now that we are walking this path and the Ruach has opened our eyes to see, now we can see it. Like, we didn't see it before. I don't know if I was I don't know. I just didn't see it before. I couldn't understand those words. I just kind of chalked them up to something that was something for the pastors to know and trust that they were leading me correct in. But we need to know what they are, and you need to know them for your, what the scriptures say, and so that you can walk that way. All right.
Okay.
Is there something else you want?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So then we also, in part 1 last week, made the case for a legal arrangement that's needed for salvation. So earth was truly given to Adam, and Adam truly gave it to Hasatan. So humanity is now born into a devourer situation underway, as Dr. David Perry says. Humanity's born into that's how he says it, right? Devourer situation already in progress kind of thing. So, and then we talked about the little scroll in Revelation being the title deed of Earth's title deed, and that how you say we come with the title deed.
Right. Hasatan received the title deed legally,
Yeah.
and with the deed to the planet came everything that was part of the planet, including the inhabitants.
Yeah, it'd be like, we have new owners that bought the property that we're on. And the old owners came last week and got everything that they wanted off of the property. But man, as soon as they're done and the new owners take over, everything that's there, if the old owner, it's theirs now.
Right.
It's theirs. So if they left a lawnmower or whatever, it now becomes. That happened to us. Remember that lawnmower became ours? Remember in town?
Yes.
He left it. He left the lawnmower. And how long did that lawnmower last us? Oh my gosh.
I know.
Like
It's probably
20
still running.
years? I don't know, 15
Somewhere.
years. Yeah. Oh, it's up at the teepee.
Uh-huh.
We
'Cause
left
we
it.
left it.
Because we left it for the new. Okay, I think I'm getting hot now. It's fun. This is a good topic. Okay, and so then we need the paperwork to get free from Hasatan's claim. And in John 14:30 talks about that. So I wish I had that.
Yeah,
right
we
here,
talked about how it's it's not a God only up there with the magic wand somehow choosing who he will and
Right.
will not save, and
Right.
bling, and it's done that simply and easily and
Right.
mysteriously. It's a legal process that
Right.
has to be taken care of, and there is basically a prosecution, if you want to call it, an
Right.
accuser
Right.
who is there in the courtroom, of heaven to ensure that everything is done, to the letter.
And who's that? That is Hasatan. He's going to
Hasatan, who
make
stands
sure.
before the throne, accusing the brethren day and night.
There you go. So he's going to make sure that Yehovah does everything legally, or, it ain't. Let's see.
Oh, and when the seventh seal
Yeah.
is removed from that little scroll,
Oh, I love this one.
and every aspect of Hasatan's, hold
Yeah.
is removed,
Like
then
that
he's going to
last
be
seal.
kicked out of that throne room once
Yeah.
and for all.
Yeah.
And then in Revelation it says, and then there was silence in heaven
For a space of 30 minutes.
for the space of half an hour. Because then there's some other things that got to get done.
I love that.
Oh,
I love
that
that
will
one.
be a sweet day, I'm sure, for Papa and Yeshua when he's silent. The
When-
accuser is silenced and booted out once and for all.
But only for 30 minutes, because then we got to get back to work and finish this deal. So John 14:30. So I'm going to read this right now because it's very important. We need the paperwork to get us free from Hasatan's claim. And I just want you to see that in John 14:30, Yeshua says, I will not speak with you after this because the prince of this world comes. So prince of this world being Hasatan, he has no claim against me. But so that the world may know that I love the Father, I will do what the Father has commanded me to do. So anyway, we can see that through Yeshua's life, because he's perfect, has absolutely no claim on him, but because we're not perfect, we're born into a devourer situation already underway, and we come with the planet, there's a claim against us. All right?
Correct.
So, all right. So I also want to mention right here that Shavuot, this is a perfect topic right now because Shavuot, the next feast coming up, which we're counting to right now, Shavuot is all about this. So we're going to talk about how the feasts, the biblical feasts, interact, or how they reveal the plan of salvation and how they're so important to this. But so, as I say all the time, the feasts are our study guides. The feasts are our lesson plan. Okay. Okay, so the feasts are our lesson plan. There is no need for a parsha. I mean, I understand that parsha is really cool. There's a lot of really cool things in it, and you can learn a whole lot of wonderful things when you do that. But if we're studying the parsha and we're ignoring his feast and the topics that Papa wants to talk about with us on the days he wants to talk to us about, the seasons he wants to talk, then we're missing Papa's rhythm. We're missing Papa's lesson plan for another man-made sort of lesson plan. So, whatever man-made religion you attend or whatever church you attend, they're preaching from the stage something that they think they want to preach. It's them planning it. When you go to Sabbath school or Sunday school or whatever it be, they're going to have lesson plan. That's man-made, and I contend, and I will go to the wall for this because I believe that this feast rhythm is what Yahweh is saying. I want to talk to you about this subject now, during this time.
I know.
Here.
We were in a Messianic congregation that we were visiting, waiting for Rebekah to speak to the group, and somebody else was up speaking, and during the course of his speech about ancient Hebrew, he said, forget the feast, forget Shabbat. He's like, let's get into the ancient Hebrew. And I was like, forget Shabbat. I was like, oh, where's that? My Bible doesn't say that. My Bible says to remember the Shabbat. So.
Yeah, and all the Shabbats. So I want to make it clear that we're talking not just weekly Shabbats, because there are so numerous texts that talk about Shabbats, all his Shabbats. So he has high Shabbats. And if you're feast literate, then you will understand what those high Shabbats are. So anyway, so talking about this subject about covenant, contract, legalities, is appropriate right now because we're heading towards Shavuot.
Right.
And I guess one other thing that I do want to mention is with every single feast, you can't wear them out, people. You can't mind them till you've exhausted them. You just can't. We've been doing this for almost 10, 11 years. I think it's going on 11 years now. And you just can't exhaust them. I mean, every single time, most of the time, when feasts come up, if we're studying about them and really engaging with the feast and the content that Papa wants to talk to us about, he will give us treasures, little jewels, every single year, new ones.
Yep.
And so you can't exhaust it. Okay,
you can exhaust other topics.
Yes, you can.
You can go too deep in the ancient Hebrew. You can go too deep into the, what do they call it, exegesis.
And
We've seen it happen, and people, they mine too deep, and they
unlock the Balrog.
Unleash the Balrog. That's
where you're not
right.
supposed to
but these are, just stay in the vein.
Yep.
It keeps going.
Stay in rhythm with Papa.
At least that's been our experience. It just keeps going.
Okay, so part one last week we were just reviewing again still. We made the case for looking at the scriptures as a whole, as a story, not just looking at one section and pulling it out and saying this is separate from this. So the whole thing is a story. So we've got to get the bigger picture. So when you proof text or you bring out one text that, Yeshua said, believe in me and be saved, or whatever it is, in one text, one proof, and you ignore everything before and everything after, and the context of the entire story, you've totally misunderstood what Yeshua was trying to say. So we made a case for that. Take it. We also, one more, I think there's just a couple more things here.
Yes, and just as a little note, today we're going to kind of go a different direction from that, as to what happens when the big picture is a little overwhelming and it's you feel like it's a little too much to take in all at once.
Right.
Then how to get focused and how to refocus in. So we'll talk about that today.
Yeah.
Okay. This is review still?
Yeah, we're still in review.
Okay.
So we talked about one.
Okay, we talked about how the legal arrangement works. Okay,
Yeah.
we're saved through covenant, and we talked about how this arrangement works. It's like a marriage
Marriage
covenant.
type
We
of
talked about how we wear a ring of our covenant relationship, and then we wear a ring for our
Yeah.
the only other blood covenant relationship.
Yep, and the legal arrangement and how it works, how it gets us into Yehovah's family.
Right.
So we can actually get his last name. So we get that through covenant, through contract with him.
So Yeshua has, like Rebekah just read, Hasatan has no claim on Yeshua.
Right.
And so we need to become part of Yeshua's family,
Right.
get the Yehovah's, Elohim's family name through a marriage type arrangement to come out to be released from Hasatan's claim.
Right. That's how Yehovah has chosen to do it, and it is the marriage supper of the Lamb coming. So if you remember at Sinai, Yehovah marries and weds Israel. But then Israel, 40 days later, commits adultery, breaking the covenant. So Yahweh strives with her and you see in Hosea where he divorces her. And he divorces her primarily because what we understand is so that he can release Israel, according to his own law, for her to go marry a Kinsman Redeemer, who he brought up as Yeshua, his son, who is now the kinsman, who bears his name, and who can now Yeshua can marry Israel, the children of Israel, and bring Israel into covenant, into the family. So
right. So there's another
incredible.
one of many things that Yeshua accomplished with his work when he was here. We talked about how he was paying the price for original sin, but then this one where he's paying the price
Kinsman Redeemer
for or he's making a way to remarry.
Right.
Because there is a law against remarrying. It's the law of adultery.
Right.
And so he made a way for the adulterous bride to remarry.
Which happens to be, and going kind of on a side tangent here, it happens to be Israel, who is we're talking the northern kingdom, Ephraim, who got scattered into the nations. They were not allowed into, was it Jerusalem or the temple or whatever? They had to be outside. And so at the time when Yeshua came, when he was here, he said, I have only come for the lost sheep of Israel. I've only come for the lost sheep of Israel, which he's talking about the scattered. So, when Shaul goes out or Paul goes out and they go out into the Gentiles, they weren't going to the pagans. They were going, they were speaking to the lost house of Israel to tell them that the price for their adultery had been paid, and now they could come back into the family.
A Gentile is not a pagan. A Gentile is an out-of-covenant Israelite. And and at the time, the scattered knew who they were, and Judah knew who the scattered were. And the scattered were waiting for a way to be made so they could literally and physically come back. And this was the good news that the apostles had to go share with the scattered Israelites, was that a way had now been made.
So guess what? We are the scattered.
Still, yes.
We're still the scattered. We are in the nations. We are coming out of the nations. He said when the time of the Gentiles is over, as in when the time of you guys being scattered is over, and I'm going to call you back. That biblically, you do the biblical math, and it comes out to about 2008, somewhere around in there. Anyway, point being is that he's calling scattered Israel back right now. So the price for your adultery has been paid now. And now you can come back into the house. You can come back to home. You can come back into the family. I mean, through the Kinsman Redeemer, it's a beautiful plan of salvation. I never understood it in Christianity. I did not see the plan. I was confused. I knew it was important, but I was confused, and it wasn't until I started really understanding this Hebraic walk and understanding what Yehovah actually said and what Yeshua actually said that I got eyes to see. It wasn't on my own doing. I got eyes to see and ears to hear from the Ruach HaKodesh. And I am going to praise the name of Yehovah for giving us those eyes to see. And Isaac and I got them at the same time.
Right.
I mean, turn towards me. I need you to turn towards me. There you go. Yay. That's better. Okay, so we got eyes to see and ears to hear at the same time. So I know a lot of you are not in a situation like that, and it's extremely hard. Like, I know the women, there's some women in the group that, you know, they need to be there because they need the support. They either don't have their husband on board, they're single, or they're, you know, single or single mom, or, you know, or whatever your situation is. It's not always this echad in oneness. So it's been a blessing to be
Right,
doing
and
this
we are
together.
aware of how fortunate we are, or how blessed we are
to have
to have that.
So
to be together on the path.
So
at
we
the same
pray for
time.
you and your husband
Absolutely.
or your wife, to your children, to get those eyes to see and ears to hear, because we can't give it, you can't give it to them. It's only the Ruach HaKodesh who can give it, and we're going to talk about that some more in a little bit.
And we know it's a hard thing because, as the scattered, when it's time to come out, then you have that comes with an awareness of who you are, your identity as an Israelite, but it also comes with an awareness of, you'll feel the weight of the sins of your ancestors.
Yes.
The wayward, adulterous Israel, and you'll feel that.
Yeah.
And you'll bear the weight, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
Will come on you, then you can, because that has to come first, so then you can then repent of that,
Right.
For yourself and for Israel. And there's probably going to be some wilderness time. Hava promised that he would, take the adulterous bride into the wilderness and woo her there.
Yeah.
And
That's,
the wilderness is not always easy,
yeah, it's not easy.
as you all know.
It's not
I'm sure.
easy, and I would suggest not troubleshooting it when it comes. Like, let it happen so that you can go there and be done with it.
Don't waste the opportunity.
Don't waste the opportunity.
Don't make him take you there again.
I know. Oh, don't let. Okay, and so all of this to become, getting into the family, becoming the bride to be, the betrothed of the Kinsman Redeemer, all is so that you can get the inheritance. You can have the will of Yehovah can be placed upon you, which we see in John 6:39-40. We see Hebrews 1-3, Hebrews 9:5-8, 18, Hebrews 10:7. We see what his will is, and his will is for all those that Yehovah gives him to not perish but have everlasting life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually talk about this in another slide.
This is
so I'm gonna
definitely
go ahead.
his will, as in his heart's inclination, but it's
Yes.
also his will, as in last will and testament, a
Yeah.
legal document.
Yeah.
That Shaul talks about how, in order for the will to be enacted, then someone must die, which was Yeshua died as the Lamb of God in Yahweh's place to enact his will.
Right.
So this is a legal.
It's a legal thing.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
To see it that way, it really makes it real.
Yeah,
I think.
makes it real and makes it understandable.
Yes.
And
It makes more sense.
yeah, makes a lot more sense. Would you do me a favor and just
Yes.
pull that just to make sure that we're still live? I just would suck to be talking here and not have it live. Unless you can you see?
We'll just check here.
Oh, good. Oh, hey. I can hear myself. Okay. So then we also just a couple more things, overview from last week, and then we'll get started. Oh my God. See, I told you it's time is whatever. We began to talk about and find out what we actually need to be saved from. So I think this is a big, issue with what are we actually saved from? What are we saved from, Isaac?
Yeah, well, we already talked about how we're saved from Hasaton's claim. We're saved from the law of adultery now.
Yep, law of adultery.
Yeah, I think we talked about how we're saved from being in a hopeless situation. So
Right.
now we have, this hope.
Right.
Because it's promised as first fruits that,
Right.
in the first fruits resurrection, that there would, to guarantee a final resurrection.
Right.
So we have that.
Yep. And the separation from Yehovah that happens there. So Ephesians 2:12. Go look that up.
Yes.
All right. Also, as we said before, salvation is through covenant as opposed to sloppy grace, people. All right. Romans 6:1-14. I'm not going to read it now. We read it last week, I think, or talked about it. But Romans 6:1-14. Salvation is through covenant, not sloppy grace. So stop with the sloppy grace, people. The scriptures doesn't talk about sloppy grace. You can't just, mentally say that, I accept, I'm forgiven, I can continue in my sin. What did Yeshua say? We're going to talk about this more. He said, go and sin no more. What is sin? We're going to talk about that. Okay, also, we looked at significance of Yeshua as the second Adam and the Kinsman Redeemer. So he's the second Adam. I'm going to list off a bunch of texts right here. 1 Corinthians 15:22. 1 Corinthians 15:45 to 49. Leviticus 25:47 to 55. Isaiah 54:5 to 8. Galatians 4:4 to 7. Ruth 3:9. So you go look at that. So we also talked just briefly about what did Yehovah and Yeshua say about salvation. Now this is where we're going to take off today. Okay. So before we look at what Shaul says or Paul, before we look at any other New Testament books and what they say, we're going to look at what Yehovah said and Yeshua said first. Okay, that is most important. So today, we're going to look at today is what Yeshua said. What did Yeshua say about salvation? Wouldn't you like to know? If you don't know, that is the place to start. He is our rabbi, he is our high king, or he's our high priest and our king, and he is our rabbi.
Yep.
And what he says goes.
Yeah, so here's our tip for today is if in doubt, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if we're like, the big picture is like escaping us or it's too much, then here's how you get back on the narrow path and get it like simple again, is to fall in step right behind Yeshua.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. That's what
we throw that phrase out, follow Jesus, and but he is our rabbi, and this is a rabbi Talmudim relationship.
Right.
And we don't say disciple because we're not talking about like discipleship here.
Christian discipleship. We're
talking
talking about that.
One person who latches onto and becomes the shadow of this other person, and you put your feet where their feet went, and you
listen, you say exactly what
sleep when they sleep, you get up when they get up, you eat when they eat.
Yeah. Do you understand that's what a Talmudim did? So they weren't called disciples at that time, they were called Talmudim. And Talmudim, if you wanted to become a Talmudim, basically you would look around and say, which rabbi do I like? And then you would go to that rabbi's door, and I've heard somebody preach on this. I'm not. Anyway, you would go to that rabbi's door and you would sit in the threshold of that doorway basically until the rabbi was so sick of you that he said, okay, fine, you can follow me. You can be my Talmudim. Because he'd have to trip over, he was tripping over you constantly, he was having to walk over you, and so finally he'd say, okay. And the idea was that when the rabbi passed, that the rabbi was in the Talmudim, so that it was like the rabbi never went away. So, because that Talmudim would know exactly what he would say in whatever situation that he found himself in. He would know exactly, he would sound just like the rabbi. He would walk just like the rabbi. They would literally shadow, like Isaac was saying, like in their footsteps, like right behind him kind of thing, and just do everything just like, that's what we're supposed to do, people.
So we're going to...
Okay, so first we're going to start right here. We're going to say, why listen to Yeshua? So for those of you who don't understand, I am not referring to the Messiah as Jesus, because Jesus is not his name. Jesus, and I might offend someone, but that's okay. Jesus, the word itself means nothing. It doesn't have any intrinsic value on its own. It's just from what we have placed on it now, looking back. What is that? Hindsight, engineering, backward engineering, or whatnot. Anyway, it doesn't have any meaning on its own outside of what we have placed on it. So his name was Yeshua. A lot of people say Yeshua, Yehoshua, whatever, however you end up learning or studying or figuring out how to pronounce his name. We're not talking Jesus, okay? We're talking Yeshua, Yehoshua, however you want to say that. But the point is that we're going to say Yeshua for the Messiah, okay? Because that's his name. All right, and that's another story.
Yes.
All right, so because we're going to pay attention to what Yeshua says, because he's the prophet Moses spoke of, that Yahweh said we must obey. All right, so in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19, this is the command from Yehovah. He actually says, I'm going to set ahead, how does it go? Let me just read it for a second. Deuteronomy 18, because somehow Deuteronomy 18. 18, 15 through 19. Okay. Yahweh your Elohim will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own brothers. You must listen to him. For this is what you asked of Yahweh your Elohim at Horeb on the day of the assembly. When you said, let us not hear the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, nor see the great fire anymore, or we will die. Yahweh said to me, what they say is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like from you among their brothers. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. If anyone does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name, I myself will call him to account. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded him to say, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods must be put to death. Ouch. Okay, so there's just John 6:14, John 7:40, John 8:24. Those who had seen the miracle that Yeshua said, this is of truth the prophet that should come into the world. And then he says, many of the people who heard him speak said, truth, this is the prophet. If you do not believe that I am the one, you will die in your sins. So, throughout the New Testament, you find, or throughout the Gospels, you find indication that people were trying to figure out if he was the prophet, right?
Yep.
And he said himself, if you do not believe that I am the one, and he was referring to him being the prophet, then you will die in your sins. Okay. All right. Relax, baby.
Okay.
You can sit back and relax. I know you're back. You don't have to sit. You don't have to sit that way all the time. I know my hubby. Okay. Yeshua said, I wish you could see my slides because they're pretty cool. But Yeshua said, do what Moses said to do. All right. So I want you to know it's Matthew 13, 1-4 in the corrected King James Version, based off the Matthew Shem Tov Hebrew transcript, or manuscript. This is just an important point to note. Actually, I'll let you read it.
This
Matthew
is my first
23,
time seeing this.
I know, I'm sorry.
It says Matthew 23.
Sorry, 23.
Verses 1-4. After inspecting the treasury, Yeshua addressed the multitude and all of his disciples who were present in the temple court for the last time, saying, the sages and the Pershim sit in Moshe's seat. They purport to have Moshe's authority. Therefore, whatever he, Moshe, commands you to observe, that observe and do. But do not follow the takanot and ma'asim of the Pershim. For they say they follow Moshe, but they do not do what Moshe says to do.
Okay, so just this is a kind of a side note, just something to support this idea, is that Yeshua said, don't do what the religious leaders are telling you to do. That's the takanot and the ma'asim, which would be the man-made rules and regulations and laws and stuff like that. Don't do what they're telling you to do, what Moses told you to do. So in the versions, most of the translations that we have, it doesn't say that. It says it's very, it's at odds with each other, this verse. And so Nehemiah Gordon and Keith Johnson and Michael Gordon and everything really unpacked this and found the Matthew Shem Tov Hebrew and understand this to be, Yeshua himself is telling us to obey Moses. So you have to, that's a huge thing to unpack, which part of, what's the law and stuff like that. But we're going to do that in a little bit. I just wanted to excuse me, I wanted to bring that up. All right, so Yeshua said that he came to do Yahweh's will, like Isaac was saying, the last will and testimony, that sort of thing. So in John 6:38-40, he says, I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of Yahweh who sent me, that all whom he has given me I should lose none, but should raise them up again in the last day. And this is the will of Yahweh who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up in the last day. So this is interesting. He says it twice in the same breath, basically, and he's making a point he's highlighting a point. When you say it twice, it's like an exclamation point in Hebrew when you're saying something twice. Mm-hmm. So we're going to look at this just a little bit later, but this is a study that Isaac did that you're going to get. I know you can't see that very well, but you're going to get it later if you come back. If you're a lady and you come back to the Ladies of Teshuvah group after the show with me, I'm going to give this PDF to you free. Otherwise, you have to go to my store and buy it. Okay. But this is cool because this is Isaac's study, and then I did the graphics for it. So it walks you through what must I believe and what must I do to be saved. Okay, so Yeshua is very clear. He says you must see and believe. So this is a study that Isaac did that is just incredible. He saw the difference. He's like, okay, it's one thing to see, it's another thing to believe. So I have more slides here that we're going to go through. I just want to show you this really quickly. This is the narrow path that the scriptures talks about. So it's the see and believe. Okay, so it's not enough to just see, oh yes, and believe, and say, yes, I see you. You are Yeshua. I see you. Therefore, I believe. They're two different things almost. Believe is an action word. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing right now, but this is a really cool resource for you. And I'm going to go through it. Just have some more text and stuff. We're going to talk about this in depth later in the show if we get there. Maybe we're going to need to do a part 3. I don't know. So just a few quick things that I found. I decided to just kind of read through the Gospels. And again, the chronological Gospels right here. If you haven't got it already, you need it because this is truly amazing. This takes all 4 Gospels and it puts everything in Yeshua's life in chronological order so you can see where he was, when, what he was talking about at what times.
Right.
So I love this. And then Michael Wood calls this the 5th Gospel, Revelation, the 5th Gospel of Yeshua. And we see Yeshua talking in first person in the Gospel of Revelation. So anyway, this
because
is really amazing.
Because the 4 Gospels reveal how
Right.
Yeshua fulfilled all of the spring feasts in their details. And then Revelation talks about how he will fulfill all of the fall feasts.
That's right.
That's why he calls it the 5th Gospel.
Right. So as I was reading straight through, and I didn't get through the whole thing, I think there's more in here to discover in mine. But about salvation, Yeshua said to persevere. So in Luke 21:19, he says, in your perseverance, you will save your soul. That's interesting because that's a do. That's an action, right? All right, and we got to figure out what we're supposed to be persevering in. That's cool. About salvation, Yeshua said, you must enter through him. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I love how my friend Diane talks about the way being in the outer court, the truth being the inner, the holy place, and the life being the most holy place. And everyone at the time when they heard that, they understood the parallel he was making about the tabernacle. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no man comes to the Father in the most holy place but by me. John 14:6. He also says in John 10:9, I am the door. If any man enter in through me, he shall be saved, or she will be saved. Okay, so you must enter through him. He is the way to the Father. There's no other way, and there's no other way to be saved. All right, about salvation, Yeshua said you must see and believe, like our mind map talks about. And it's interesting, John 6. Man, there was 2 chapters. Remember this week? That we absolutely loved.
Yep.
It was John 6 and John 14.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, and John 14. So here's John 6 and John 14. Where's John 14? In this book, it's a little bit tough to find everything, just because it's chronological. Everything's put together, so you can see at the top you have the section where this event takes place in Matthew and Mark and Luke and John. And so if it's not highlighted, I'm like, where did John? I thought I had it. Oh, there it is. Oh, yes, John 14. There it is, John 14. Oh, man, the whole chapter is just amazing. These 2 chapters are crazy beautiful. So we're going to say, okay, so John 6 is all about this see and believe thing. In John 6:40 it says, and this is the will of Yehovah who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up in the last day. But in John 6:36, you see him say, he's defining the difference between seeing and believing. On one level, he's saying, John 6:36, he says, "You have seen me, but believed not." He's talking to the Pharisees. He's talking to the Purushim that saw him but didn't believe. So Isaac's mind map is super cool. Yeah. I just love this. No, you're just going to need to get it.
Yeah, you're going to have to have it in front of you.
You just need to get it.
We don't have a digital to put up right now.
I know.
So
it's
okay.
The way he did it, I love how Isaac studies. So you're going to see like texts that show you, that help define different phrases, and you're just gonna have to get it. It's a great thing. All right, about salvation, Yeshua said that you must believe and obey. So John 8:45 and 51 says, "You do not believe me. He that is of Yehovah hears Yehovah's words." So if you are of Yehovah, then you hear his words. You cannot hear me because you are not of Yehovah. Truth, I say to you, if a man keeps my sayings, he shall never see death. So what are his sayings? That's what we want to know, is what are the sayings of Yeshua?
Right.
All right, so if you don't believe him, then you're not of Yehovah. And you can't hear him. And so this is why the Ruach HaKodesh is super important. Because the only hope of anybody hearing Yehovah's words is if you have that Ruach, if they have the Ruach HaKodesh in you, the Spirit of Yehovah, there's no hope. Because who can hear without the Ruach?
Right.
There is so much to cover here, like New Covenant and the Ruach being in us to move. I think I actually touch on that in a bit, but all right. So you take that one.
Okay. We're going to read John 10:26 and 27. Yeshua answered, "I have already told you, and you do not believe. But you do not believe because you are not among my sheep. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. I will give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand."
Yeah, so about salvation, he says you must believe and hear. So you must believe and obey. You must believe and hear, right? So his sheep are going to hear his voice, and he's going to give them everlasting life. And none of those shall perish if you hear his voice. And the idea of hearing his voice would mean going where he's going. It doesn't mean, oh, I hear you, bye-bye, I'm going to go my own way. It means that a sheep comes when the shepherd calls. A sheep is going to go where the shepherd goes. So it's not like, yes, I hear you, I'm going to do what I want. That's not what he's talking about. So you're going to hear in order to obey and believe. You're going to hear, believe in order to obey. All right, so about salvation, Yeshua said, believe. This is interesting. You believe to get the Ruach. So we're kind of unpacking the idea, we're trying to unpack the idea of seeing and believing. And believing is all-inclusive of obeying and hearing, and you've got to believe in order to get the Ruach. And we're gonna talk about why the Ruach HaKodesh is so important. John 7:39-40 says, "But this he spoke of the Spirit, which those who believe in him should receive. For the Ruach HaKodesh was not yet given, because Yeshua was not yet glorified." So we can see here in this text that those who believe will receive the Ruach, the gift.
Right.
The gift.
Right.
Which Shavuot is all about.
Right.
Shavuot's all about the outpouring of the Ruach. Remember that? When the Ruach was poured out there in Solomon's porch, they weren't all crowded up into a little room. It was everybody. After Yeshua left, he said, "Stay in Jerusalem until the gift that is promised is given." And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people right there who experienced the outpouring of the Ruach. They were all gathered there for Sukkot, or Shavuot, because Shavuot is a pilgrimage feast. It's a Hag, and you had to go.
Right, the event called Pentecost in most of our Bibles,
Right.
which is just another name, like a Greek way of saying Shavuot.
Yeah, which it should have remained Shavuot.
Yeah.
It's like a, you know what, get me started on, people saying, well, how do you say Yeshua in English? So I've got to say Yeshua by Jesus. I have to use the word Jesus because I can't say I don't know Hebrew. Oh, for heaven's sake. Give me a break, people. I'm serious. If you have a friend and your friend has a foreign name, you don't go and say, well, I need an English translation of your name. You say, how do you pronounce it? And then you honor them by saying their name. Their name isn't, you don't find an English translation for it. You just learn it. Anyway, okay, about salvation, Yeshua said. I like my tangents sometimes.
Good.
Okay, about salvation, Yeshua said, so we're going to talk about the Ruach's job in us. So we have to believe, and then we get the Ruach in us, right? So now what does the Ruach do in us that is super important? So John 14:16-18, Ezekiel 36:27, Hebrews 8:10, Jeremiah 31:31. What are all those talking about?
Right.
Yahweh will give us the spirit of truth because the Ruach will dwell with you and shall be in you. But the Comforter, which is the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, which the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will bring all things that I've spoken to you back to remembrance. So the idea is that the Ruach HaKodesh will dwell in you and she will be with you, in you, and it's a gift. So she dwells in us to do what? The Ruach HaKodesh dwells in us to do what? Okay, we'll read Ezekiel 36:27. Here, you look it up.
Okay.
Ezekiel 36:27. That was John 14:17 and 26. What I just read. So what's it say?
And I will put my Ruach in you and move you to follow my decrees and to be careful to keep my laws.
Very good. So that's part of the new covenant. I call it a contract, and I can explain why later. But so the new covenant comes with. Okay, the new covenant is superior. It's superior to the old contract. So I look at the contract that was made at the base of Mount Sinai. It's called the first Melchizedek contract or covenant. But I look at them as contracts to the same thing. We're trying to keep the royal law of love and not break that. So you look at this. At Mount Sinai, it was first contract. The second contract was superior. It was prophesied to be superior to that first one. The first one was created with a fault in it that Hebrews talks about, or somewhere in the New Testament talks about, that first contract was created with a fault in it. And we see we see what that fault is when we look at how, in contrast with the new covenant, what the new contract, what's in there that's not in the first one. The law is still the law of love. It's still Exodus 19-24. It's still the book of the covenant. So that is the royal law. But what makes the new one superior is that the Ruach comes with it. So the Spirit that is going to live in us and move us to keep the royal law of love, the law, that is what comes with this new contract, which makes it superior.
Right. So the new covenant is not a new set of laws, it's a new mechanism by which we can keep those laws and be safe under that covenant. Something, you could say something went wrong at the fall, something went wrong at the level of the heart, and that needed to be addressed at some point. The first covenant did not come with the Ruach to move us to keep those laws, and therefore it had a fault in it. Not corporately.
Okay, so we see the Ruach in different people in the Old Testament. So we see it in King David, we see it in King Solomon.
Oh yes, in the Old Testament, the Ruach came on people at different times,
but not
for
corporately.
Sure. For sure, but it was not poured out until the Pentecost, the Shavuot, in the new recorded in Acts. Okay.
Right. So that's a really important thing to figure out and to study and to understand, is that the beauty of this new contract, the new covenant, the beauty of it is that the Ruach HaKodesh is in us. And what is the Ruach's job? And we see what the Ruach's job is outside of all the beautiful things that we know the Ruach does, give us comfort, give us wisdom, and this sort of thing, and gives us eyes to see and ears to hear. That is the big deal right there. And dwells in us to move us to obey. Yeah. So John 14:16-18, Ezekiel 36:27, Hebrews 8:10, Jeremiah 31:31, and that whole. I mean, you could just not just those verses, but read around those, and so moves us to follow Yehovah's royal law of love. So one of the things that Yeshua talked about in John 6:47-48, he says, "He who believes in me has everlasting life," and then it says. Just a couple of things, and then that a man may eat and not die. Okay, so when you understand the dwells, what in John 6:57. Actually, look up John 6:57. You might need it in this one, but I think that one's good. John 6:57. What does that say? John 6:57.
Something in the water.
I know.
Okay,
Some in the
John
coffee.
6:57,
Yeah.
if I have the right one. Just as the living Father sent me and I live because of the Father, so the one who feeds on me will live because of me. I'll continue. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Your forefathers ate manna and died, but he who feeds on this bread will live forever.
Right. Okay, so then we see, like in one of these, John 6. Let me look at this. John 6. I want to look at it in here. Let me find it. Again, I should have had a page. Sometimes I put a page. Sorry, guys. John, it's basically this idea of what indwelling means. Dwelling in means eating. So you're going to, in order to have the Ruach dwell in you, you're going to eat. And what are you going to eat? Can you? Where did it go? There it is.
Should be around
Oh
the
yeah.
Feast of Trumpets.
There we go. Yeah, I should have done it just that
Yom
way.
Teruah.
Okay, yeah. As the living Father has sent me, and as I live by the Father, so he that eats me, even he shall live by me. So the dwelling in, the idea that you eat of Yeshua and he dwells in you. Okay, so you must eat of him. And he goes off on this eating thing.
Yes.
He goes on. This is a total unleavened bread topic.
Well, yeah,
Feast of
because,
Unleavened
and
Bread.
this was at the time of the Feast of Yom Teruah, the first fall feast. But he's connecting that feast back to the previous feast.
Right.
By the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000, all the bread and the leftovers and everything,
Yeah.
has really put this topic
On the
right
table.
in his disciples'
Right.
hands, with each one of them with a basket of bread,
Yeah.
of leftovers,
Yeah.
to carry. And this was a big topic.
It's huge. So he says in John 6:47-58 again, he who believes in me has everlasting life, that a man may eat and not die. So the idea, we must eat of him. So this is really the bulk of where I'm going today, is that about salvation. So Yeshua says it's about me in you. That's and the mystery of the gospel. You know how it talks about the mystery of the gospel let me get this. So this is a book that I created called The Mastery of Matzah, and it talks all about unleavened bread. It has recipes, so it's a cookbook. But at the very beginning of it, I basically try to unpack for you this idea of what the mystery of the gospel is, and it totally during unleavened bread, you're really feasting on matzah, the unleavened bread, which is about Yeshua, who is the unleavened one. So Israel is commanded to eat matzah. You're commanded to eat unleavened bread. There are more times in the instructions for the Feast of Unleavened Bread that you're supposed to eat unleavened bread than not eat leavened bread.
Yes.
There are way more instructions that say eat unleavened bread.
Yes, there are more commands that are
Yeah.
phrased in the positive.
Yeah.
of what you must do, rather as opposed to those that are phrased in the negative,
Of what you must not do. And this is where you look at how did Yeshua fulfill that feast.
Right.
He fulfilled that feast by being the bread from heaven that Jehovah is sending us and prepared for us to eat of. And so during unleavened bread, we actually practice eating of Yeshua. So how does eating of Yeshua give us life? Well, and I'm going to just kind of skim through this a little bit. Eating of Yeshua gives us life because we are what we eat. So if you eat Twinkies all the time, you'll be a Twinkie. If you eat GMO food all the time, you're going to end up with a lot of diseases because the GMOs are set against you. They change your DNA. So who is the perfect one? It is Yeshua. Having been made perfect, Hebrews 5:8-9 says that he is the source of eternal salvation. It goes, Hebrews 7:28 says, let me see here. For the law appoints men as high priests who are weak, but the word of the oath, which we see in Genesis 12, which is another huge study, which came after the law, appoints a son made perfect forever. For it was fitting for us to have such a high priest, innocent, holy, undefiled. Anyway, so Yeshua is the perfect bread that we get to eat. Eating of him actually makes us perfect because you become what you eat. Garbage in, garbage out. Let's see. It's interesting. I know that somebody's saying right now under their breath, I can't be perfect because I'm not supposed to, I can't be perfect. That's what Christianity proposes, right?
Right.
I can't keep the law so perfectly, so therefore I can't be perfect. Man, that is such a crutch because I want you to listen to this. Matthew 5:47. Therefore, Yeshua said, therefore, be ye perfect as your heavenly Father in heaven is perfect. Tell me, what do you do with that? If you believe that you're not supposed to be perfect, what do you do with Yeshua's words?
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, and then we go back to what Yahovah said, you shall be holy. You shall be set apart, basically saying you shall be set apart. For I, Yahovah, am holy. Leviticus 19:2, Psalms 19:7. So we must be perfect. Christianity teaches that's impossible, but obviously Yeshua and Yahovah think it's possible. Actually, they say it is a must. The Feast of Unleavened Bread holds the key to our being made perfect. For if we become what we eat, and we eat of Yeshua, who is perfect, then we'll get his perfection inside of us. That's pretty cool. So, and then look, John 8:29 says, and he that sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him. So if Yeshua does everything that Yeshua does pleases Yehovah, then if we eat of Yeshua all the time, we're eating, then that means that we're going to have him in us, and we're going to please Yehovah, and we're going to be made perfect.
Right.
Oh, I love this. Okay, John 17:22-24 says, actually, why don't you, here, read it in this one.
Okay.
There you go, find that.
17:24.
Yeah, John 17:22-24. The mystery of the gospel is Yeshua in us. So cool. Yeah, John 17:22-24. And John 10:30 says, I and my Father are one. John 10:38 says, the Father is in me and I am in him. So you see that if you eat of Yeshua, you're eating of Yehovah. If you get Yeshua in you, you're getting Yehovah in you. All right, what's that one say? John 17:22-24.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Yeah, this looks like Yeshua talking to the Father. He says, I have given them the glory that you gave to me, so that they may be one, even as we are one. I and them, and you and me, that they may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that you have sent me and have loved them as you have loved me. Father, I will that they also, whom you have given me, be with me where I am, so that they may behold my glory which you have given me, for you loved me before the foundation of the world.
Oh, can I get like a standing ovation? Oh, if I could, I would. Isn't that not beautiful? He spends an entire chapter, you study the scriptures when the Gospels, and he is talking about this like constantly almost. He's talking about, he makes a really big deal about eating of him and getting him in him, getting him in us, and if we don't, we'll die. But if we do, then we get to live. So, he says, you must be perfect, and he's giving us a way to be perfect. He's putting the Ruach in us to move us to follow the law of love, and we got to figure out which law that is and what that looks like. And he's going to do it by saying, if you eat of him, because Yehovah is in him and he is in Yehovah, and he's asking for the same thing to be given to us, then we're going to get Yehovah into us, who is perfect. That is just so cool. I can't stop thinking about it. That's all I want to think about all day long. Okay, just real quick, the point of unleavened bread. Allison, it just kind of leave. Allison just sent a message, and now I don't know what it said because it went too fast. The point of unleavened bread is to practice eating of the perfect one, the unleavened one, Yeshua. So only, just my friends, only message me if there's a big problem, like you can't hear us. That's a big problem right there. Or if we go offline, that'd be another. Because I can't quite see it. It goes too fast. All right, so I think we've talked about that. There's so much. You need this book because it's got a lot of text. It's got a lot of wonderful things in it. This is also in our store. All right, so about salvation, Yeshua said, we're going on just a little bit longer. What will him in us do? So what will Yeshua in us actually accomplish?
Right. Good.
So empowers us to do the things that please the Father and do it perfectly. But here's one of the beautiful things about salvation. He says that you need to love Yehovah with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, and love others as yourself. So you see in Luke 10:25-29, a certain Torah scholar stood up and tested him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? The happily ever after. Yeshua replied, what is written in the Torah? How do you read it? He answered, you shall love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Yeshua said, you have answered correctly. Do this, and you shall live for eternity.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Yep.
Okay, and then in John 15:9-14 he says, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. Okay, so if you want to call yourself friends of Yeshua, then you're going to do what he commands you. You're not going to say, oh, yes, I love each other, and this is how I'm going to do it. You're going to love someone the way he's telling you to love someone.
Right.
I think that's part of the problem.
I think so.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
Because we have to look at when he says later, I can't remember the text, but he says, I'm giving you a new commandment, is what our translations say.
Yes.
That you love one another.
Yeah.
But he's not actually saying the word new. He's saying a Hebrew word that means something more along the lines of better in quality.
Right. This does trip a lot of people up, that they think Yeshua came to preach a new gospel and to start a new religion, etc., all based on this one little verse.
Yeah. All that one little verse taken out of context. And not understood in the original.
Right. So we need
new in
some
quality.
original, but we also need the big picture as to what is he talking about, and that he came not to teach a new thing, but he says himself, it's the Father in me. I came to show you the Father. I came to preach, to
enact his will.
To say his words.
Yeah, his words.
And so much of the time he was simply quoting what Yehovah had already said.
Right.
That's recorded in the Torah.
Right, and his words meaning, the words from the mountain, Mount Sinai, when he spoke them down, and the people were like, no, don't say it anymore again. You're scaring us. He was putting those words into Yeshua. So Exodus 19 through 24. Go read it, people. Exodus 19 through 24. It is the royal law. It is the original contract, the first one. And it was those words that he was putting into Yeshua.
Yeah. And I don't know if I can handle this big picture right now and express it all, but you need this Bible. You need to
You need to read it.
find this verse, but then get the big picture.
Yeah.
And just read around it.
Yep.
And see the flow.
Yep.
Get the chronological, then you'll know the time of year, because it's all it's chronological, yes, but it's also indexed
Right.
according to the calendar, so
Right.
that you know
Where
where
he
you are,
was.
where Yeshua was in
Right.
the feast seasons.
Right.
Matthew, Mark, and Luke all are synoptic. They all
Right.
run together to relate what was happening in between feast times.
Right.
And then when it gets to feast time, then is where John jumps in,
Yeah.
and they go silent, and John picks up the narrative to tell what happens at feast time,
Yeah.
until you get to the final, Passover season,
Yeah.
where then you have all four accounts together.
It's really
It's
cool
very
because
cool.
you can see what Yeshua was actually talking about and preaching about at feast time, and
Right.
so you can get interpretation on what that feast is about. You can see he's interpreting it for us, and so that combined with what we know Yahweh said about the feast and temple rituals and things like that, that were the feast blows open.
Right. So you can see that after the feast of the feeding, after the feeding of the 5,000, which was at the time of Yom Teruah, then he was talking about
How to
the
get
resurrection and eternal life.
Yeah.
But connecting it to having the bread in you. And
Right.
this was the hard teaching, and many
Right.
people left Yeshua over this.
Right.
And his disciples, on hearing this, many of his disciples said, "This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it?"
Yeah.
And Yeshua said, "The Spirit gives life. The flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you are spirit, and they are life. Yet there are some of you who do not believe." For Yeshua had known from the beginning which of the 12, did not believe him, and which would betray him. And
Yeah.
he knew what Judas was going to do.
Right.
And then it was on the eve of unleavened bread,
Right.
when all the Jews were cleaning the leaven out of their house, that the unleavened one handed the last piece of the leavened bread in the upper room to the disciple who did not believe, and
Yep.
essentially sent him out of the room with the last of the leaven,
Right.
and the only unleavened one in his assembly
Right.
left the room, got the leaven out of the house,
Right.
and then he turned to his other disciples and he spoke to them, the John 15 part, "This new commandment that I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you."
Right.
And that's the key to understanding this new commandment, is when Yeshua said, "As I have loved you." And how did Yeshua love?
Laid his life down
Yeah, and for who? He said, "I have come only
for
for the lost sheep of Israel." He was preparing his disciples and putting it,
Oh, baby.
in their hearts to love their fellow Israelites, because the Jews had rejected scattered Israel.
Right.
The sheep that Yeshua came for. He said, "I have other sheep and other folds."
Yeah.
And he was preparing them to go out. He was preparing them to do greater works than he did by sending them out to bring them in
Right.
to eternal life.
Right. Yeah, you were mentioning that the other day. And you have me crying.
I know.
That's pretty.
It just-
You mentioned that to me the other day, and that when he said, "You will do better works than I," and we've sat with that and gone, "How could that even be possible?" But it was like the Ruach just kind of spoke to you and said that Yeshua made the way.
Right.
He made the way possible. But what we were going to be doing that was greater works than these, not that greater works than what he did, but greater works than these.
The people were amazed when he made the lame walk and the blind to see and the deaf to hear, and even raised the dead and brought them back to life. And then he said, "But you've seen all these things, but you will do even greater things than this."
Yeah,
But he said, "I must go so that one greater than I can come." which was the gift of the Ruach, which is what the mechanism that was needed, to make this way. And so he this was his work. He made the way,
Right.
so that people could live forever. Because even though the lame walked and the blind saw and those raised from the dead, they still died. Again, they're dead now.
Yeah.
But he made a way,
Right.
where through his disciples that continue his work
Right.
could bring eternal
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And that's what's greater.
That is the boat, like the graphic that has the
Yes.
Titanic. And we want to help get people on the boat, the rescue
Yes.
boat. This
He
is the
made
boat.
the boat,
He made the boat.
the rescue boat.
Yeah, that's what he did. Was he made the boat, and now his Talamuddin are going to help put people on the boat.
On the boat.
I love you. I
Well,
do.
I love you too.
So there was something that you said that sparked me, and I wanted to go there. It was beautiful. Shoot. I'll have to go back and watch it. Oh, the scattered. I know what it was. Okay, so it was when you started crying, literally, because the scattered. I think one of the reasons that you were tearing up there is you were feeling collective pain.
Mhm.
And I think, so many of us who are walking in this, who see this and who have eyes to see and ears to hear, we have a lot of family that don't. But we know that they're part of scattered Israel.
Right.
And we really, really, really want to spend our entire life doing nothing but trying to help the Ruach and Yeshua communicate, and Yehovah communicate to scattered Israel how to get on the boat. Because the Titanic is going down, and we have been given freedom, true freedom.
Right.
And you don't have to get on that boat. But we know that there's no other way off this Titanic. And I think that's why I think that's what you were feeling, is collective pain and the gravity of the situation.
The gravity of the situation definitely weighed pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
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 He wants everyone to be saved, but not everyone will choose to be saved.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, so I think we've been going for 2 hours now.
Mhm.
We have a lot, actually, we might not have that many slides left. Let me see here. Where am I? Okay, so I'm right here. And, I don't have that many. Let's just finish the slides real quick.
Okay.
So about salvation, Yeshua also said, and this is an interesting, Mark 11:26 says, if you do not forgive others, your Father in heaven will not forgive your trespasses. So when we understand what sin is, and that it's really important for him to forgive our trespasses that we have participated in the past, and that's really important. If we don't forgive, then he doesn't forgive us. So, and then also Yeshua said to do the works of Abraham. In John 8:32-34 and 39, he says, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. If you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Whoever willfully commits sin, is the slave of sin. If you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. And what are the works of Abraham? That is a huge thing to unpack right there, actually. But you would actually do the works of Abraham, which are keeping the covenant, keeping the law. Okay, and interesting here, Yeshua said also to the lady who was brought to him, the woman who was caught in adultery, in John 8:10-11, he says, it says, when Yeshua had lifted himself up and saw none but the woman, he said to her, woman, where are your accusers? And has no man condemned thee? She said, no man, Lord. And Yeshua said to her, neither do I condemn you. He doesn't stop right there, though. He says, go and sin no more.
Mm-hmm.
So he's commanding her, he's forgiven her, and he releases her. He doesn't stone her, he releases her, but he says, go and sin no more. So the idea of be perfect. So he's telling us, so now we have to, now I have to see what sin is. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. So 1 John 3:4 says, it describes what sin is.
Yes. Whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law.
Okay, super important. And what's really super important here is figuring out what law is he talking about.
Go back 2 slides.
I
Can
can.
you?
Yeah, I can actually.
Oh, that's right.
No, right here
Nobody
I
else
can.
can see the slides anyway.
No, but you, if you need it.
So, back to the works of Abraham.
Yeah.
Abraham was pre-Exodus,
Yep.
pre-Mount Sinai,
Yep.
pre-Levitical law.
Yep.
The works of Abraham. Abraham came from a pagan family.
Yep.
And he was brought, though semi-adopted by
Noah
by
and Shem.
Noah and Shem,
He was contemporary.
who were operating as Melchizedek priests. And Abraham was kind of adopted by them and taught the way
Right. Right.
to walk under
Right.
Melchizedek law and to
Yep, 'cause-
operate as a Melchizedek priest.
Because the Melchizedek law, the royal law of love, which is found in Exodus 19 through 24, that is basically Yahweh writing it down for the first time, but it was passed down from firstborn to firstborn to firstborn. So Noah and Shem knew this law and taught it to Abraham.
Right.
Pretty cool. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got just a couple more slides and then we're going to go over to Facebook. Yeshua said that you are responsible for the light that you have, and I wanted to kind of begin to end on this, was that John 9:42 says, if you were blind, you would not be as chargeable, but because you say you see, you bear full responsibility for your sin. So you're responsible for the light that you have. So if you've been listening to us, you're responsible for what you now know. And you can go ahead and study it out and whatnot and prove what we have said is true. But if you have new light and the Ruach HaKodesh is moving on you, then you are responsible for this light that you have. If the Ruach is moving on your heart right now, and you reject the Ruach HaKodesh, remember what he says. That's that blasphemy of the Ruach HaKodesh, blasphemy of the Spirit of Jehovah. That is the unpardonable sin, as in he can't do anything for you at that point. If you reject the Ruach coming to you right now to talk to you about this and to move you and give you eyes to see and ears to hear, and you're like, that cost is going to be too high, I don't want that, then you are going to bear full responsibility for your sin. Ouch. But it's true. Okay, just a couple more slides. Yahweh said that you can actually be sure of your salvation. There's a lot of people who are not sure. I remember being in Christianity and not sure.
Right. Right, and that was actually one of the prompts for this topic in the first place.
Right.
Was this question, can you be sure of your salvation?
Right. In Revelation 22:14, he says, yes, you can. Blessed are they who keep the commandments. Let me go back down here.
Okay, it's there.
I know.
The answer is yes.
Yes, blessed are they who keep his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life. Okay, we're going to be off here just in a second, Tammy. All right, blessed are they who keep his commandments, that may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. Excluded are the idolaters and whoever lies and loves a lie. I, Yeshua, have sent my messenger to you. So basically, yes, you must keep his commandments, and if you do that, and you're not an idolater and all the other things, then you can be positive of your salvation. So that actually is my last slide, Tammy and Sean. We are going to close out here, and we're going to go over to the ladies group. So again, ladies, if you want to come over for an after show glow into the ladies of Teshuvah group, Isaac and I are going to be there for a little bit. We're going to talk to Tammy and Sean Henkel. How exciting. And for now, I know that was a huge subject, and we might have to go into part 3 because we do want to talk about how the feasts interact or tell us about